Good evening, Kitchissippi. It is Friday, June the 6th. This is a video version of the 440th Kitchissippi Weekly Ward newsletter. As always, there is lots more information about all the issues that we'll discuss in the email newsletter, to which you can subscribe at kitchissippiward.ca. I'm here in Champlain Park tonight, getting a bit of an early start on the newsletter for the weekend. I have a very busy weekend right across the city and ward. The headline item in my newsletter tonight is about drinking in parks. Council looks very likely to adopt a policy that would allow alcohol to be consumed in city parks, with certain common sense restrictions on that, based on things like proximity to wading pools, play structures, etc. It is going to be left up to city councillors to ask the city to implement pilot projects in city parks that would last through this summer into the fall. I've said before that I support the measure. Intensification means that for many people, the outdoor amenity space to which they have access is actually the local city park. Half of the housing in Kitchissippi Ward is in multi-residential dwellings, and there is a bit of an equity issue, or I think a strong equity issue at play here. But I am also very cognizant that some people may not feel comfortable playing in a park or using a park in which people are drinking, and we certainly have parks that have problematic histories associated with drinking. So I would like to choose at least one park in the ward in which to implement a pilot. There needs to be lots of space between the play areas, the wading pools, and where people could potentially be allowed to drink. I'm thinking about where I am tonight, Champlain Park, possibly La Roche Park, and maybe Parkdale Park. I think the latter, Parkdale Park, is probably a bit too tight with respect to the geography that it offers to share all those different uses, but certainly in La Roche Park and here in Champlain Park, there is lots of open space. I'm not invested in this. It's not something that I really want to see happen. So I'm asking you, what do you think? Would you support a pilot project to allow drinking in parks in Champlain and La Roche for the course of this summer? Are there other parks where you think that it could be appropriate? I'd ask you to email me at jeff.leeper@ottawa.ca with your thoughts. I'm hosting pop-up office hours on June the 9th. That's Monday. Those are going to be at the new Crane Park. That's on the Byron Pathway, just in behind the Superstore parking lot. I'm going to be hosting those from 10 until 1 p.m. on Monday, June the 9th. If it's really raining hard, find me at the Bridgehead on McRae. Pop-ups are an opportunity to come by anytime during those hours, again, 10 to 1, to talk to me about whatever's on your mind, one-on-one without appointment. The Committee of Adjustment is next going to meet on June 18th, a light agenda for our ward with just a single item at 505 Dawson. The owner is seeking to subdivide the property into two separate parcels of land to create separate ownerships for each half of the existing semi-detached. There is, it should be in place now, signage on Lanark between Briarway and Beach Grove to indicate that there is going to be a speed enforcement camera there. I noted after the last budget that there was the possibility a speed camera would be installed along that stretch. The signage has gone in apparently as of yesterday to indicate that that speed camera is coming. It is a provincial requirement that signage go up 90 days before the implementation of a speed camera. I'm going to be hosting, along with Councillor Troster, an early budget consultation. There has been a change to city policy to allow for budget consultations earlier than we used to have them. Ariel and I are going to host that on Thursday, June the 26th. That'll be at the Plant Recreation Centre at 930 Somerset Street West. The budget is obviously a critical document. In addition to sort of the normal format of a presentation and Q&A with city staff and the city treasurer's staff there to answer questions, we have asked a number of experts in their field to come and provide a little bit of color on the answers that we're hearing as people ask their questions. Somerset West Community Health Centre's Suzanne Obiora, Strategy Corp's Joanne Chianello, and Centertown Citizens Ottawa Corporation Sarah Button are going to be our experts. We've invited one more as well to talk about transportation issues, and we'll announce that. So go to the newsletter. There's a link for how you can RSVP to take part in that budget consultation, which again is going to be hosted during the evening of June the 16th. A number of events happening in the community. There's going to be one of those very popular repair cafes happening at the Tom Brown Arena on June 14th. You can learn new skills. It offers free repair of electronics, clothing, small appliances, and more. The June 14th is going to be held at Tom Brown between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. It is a drop-in event with first come, first served. The Forêt Capitale Forest is seeking volunteers for a couple of tree planting events at the new Westboro Beach Pavilion. There's going to be a tiny forest planting on June the 30th from 5 until 7 p.m. and then another tree planting on June the 21st from 10 until 1 p.m. They are recommending registration for that. I have a link in the newsletter. On June the 18th, there's going to be an evening of storytelling and music with One World Grannies and Unitarian Go-Go's. That is in support of the Stephen Lewis Foundation. That will be on June 18th from 6:30 p.m. at First Unitarian on Cleary Avenue. Join for stories, music, snacks at intermission, and great company at the very reasonable price of $35 per ticket. The McKellar Park Community Association is hosting its annual general meeting. That's going to be this Sunday, June the 8th, from 7 until 8:30 p.m. at the McKellar Park Fieldhouse. There is a couple of spots, I understand, as of this afternoon left for the Kitchissippi by Bike tour that has been organized by EnviroCenter. Join me, join your neighbors for a tour of the bike infrastructure in the ward on June the 21st. I have a link in the newsletter on how to register. As I say, you'll want to grab that spot or a couple of spots that are left fairly quickly. I'm certain that this will fill up. The Hintonburg Arts Park is going to be on June the 14th. Come celebrate over 20 years of arts in Hintonburg with music, food, crafters. There will be henna, live painting, community resource tables, and live music. I don't have it in a copy of the newsletter in front of me, but I will also note that the Hintonburg 5K is coming up in mid-July. That registration is open now for that very popular 5K race and Kids 1K race. City Hall is still very busy. The Built Heritage Committee is going to meet on June 10th. There is a proposal on that agenda, a recommendation from staff to add about $500,000 into the Heritage Grant Program in order to help Centertown property owners rejuvenate their facades. I haven't looked super closely at it yet, but the intent is to help property owners freshen up their heritage facades. There are a number of designations. 254 Argyle is proposed to be altered. They're proposing to designate the former Drummond Presbyterian Church on Old Robertson, designate 119 Osgood. And in our ward, I'm very pleased to see a proposed designation with heritage protection move forward for what I still call the Laura Secord building on the northwest corner of Holland and Wellington. The actual address is 1235 Wellington, 120 Holland. So they're proposing to protect that with heritage designation. City Council is going to meet the next day on June the 11th. I haven't looked super closely at the agenda yet. It just went online a little bit ago. The headline item is going to be contemplation of the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee's recommendation to Council that we deny what is called a municipal support resolution for a battery energy storage system that has been proposed for West Carleton March Ward. That was a very lengthy discussion yesterday. The committee heard from around, I think, 65 delegations. I tuned in for a few hours of it. In the end, the committee chose to recommend Council refuse a municipal support resolution, which would be required for the project to move into the next phase, which would be the zoning. It will be, I think, a different story at City Council, where many of us are keen to support that municipal support resolution. We'll see how the vote goes. There was some very good expert technical testimony during yesterday's committee hearing when residents and we were able to hear about mitigations against fire risk and groundwater contamination. We'll also get an update on the city's strategic plan, consider Ottawa Community Housing's annual report, deal with the Parks and Facilities bylaw that includes the aforementioned alcohol in parks discussion I had earlier. You can see the full agenda of our City Council meeting and read all of the associated documents at the link in the newsletter. The Transit Committee is going to meet on June the 12th. I think it's a relatively light agenda. We'll get all the usual service updates, stage 2 updates. We're going to receive a report on OC's response to the Westboro bus collision coroner's inquest. And there's also a nifty little report on how OC Transpo might raise some more revenue through non-fare measures, things like, for example, advertising. You can read the full agenda at the link in the newsletter. And then on June 17th, the Environment and Climate Change Committee is going to meet. I think they've got a pretty substantial agenda. Residents may want to read the response to inquiry on rats and 311. I do get the occasional call about those. There's the annual drinking water quality report. There is also going to be a report, which I haven't read yet, talking about an expansion of the very popular household hazardous waste depot. Many of you know the household hazardous waste depots that they held at Tunney's Pasture in various locations around the city. They're evaluating the potential to have more and smaller depots as well as permanent depots to serve more of the city. This was something that was urged in our solid waste master plan. And then really importantly, staff have done feasibility studies on a number of technologies and options to deal with the fact that Trail Road will have to eventually close. What staff are recommending is that we move ahead with in-depth studies of options to build an incinerator, build a new landfill, or rely on private dumps. I'm going to be looking very closely at that one, obviously. Read all of the associated documents on the agenda at the link to which I provided, or that I've provided in the newsletter. And then finally, in the newsletter this week, there is an extensive list of the programming that is currently being offered by our treasured Rosemount branch of the Ottawa Public Library. Kitchissippi, I hope you have a great weekend. I hope this smoke clears. This is obviously alarming and of great concern, or should be to everybody, that we now have to look at the smoke forecast before we leave the house every day. Hopefully it clears a bit for the weekend. Kitchissippi, thank you very much for watching. Have a great week.